Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. On the programme tonight, as Prime Minister Modi returns from a successful visit to Japan, is there a strategic shift in India's foreign policy? Was Mr. Modi's dig at China on Japanese soil a sign that New Delhi can stand up to Beijing, or was it needless? And overall, from relations with Pakistan to other neighbours, has Mr. Modi shown a radical shift? Also tonight, the story that's been breaking in the last hour. Former Chief Justice of India, P. Sathashivam, is appointed the Governor of Kerala, but many eminent jurists and others have spoken out against the move. Is it ethical for former judges to be given the appointment of Governor? We'll be talking about that in about 30 minutes from now. But first, Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned home today after a successful visit to Japan, which has promised to invest some $35 billion in India over the next 5 years for development projects. The visit was Mr. Modi's first bilateral outside the subcontinent, as India does a delicate balancing act with China. But the PM also raised eyebrows with his comments on China while on Japanese soil. Without naming Beijing, Mr. Modi made a dig on its expansionist policies, comments that certainly pleased Japan but had the official Chinese media warning that any attempt by Tokyo to form a united front against China with India was a crazy fantasy. The Chinese President Xi Jinping is visiting New Delhi later this month. Well, the question we're asking is whether under Narendra Modi there has been a strategic shift in India's foreign policy and whether we are really seeing a new direction as far as New Delhi's relations with the rest of the world are concerned. Joining us on the program tonight, former Ambassador K.C. Singh here in the studio with us, former Foreign Secretary Kamal Sibal joins us this evening, and we have senior journalist and commentator Mihir Sharma joining us tonight as well. Mr. Sibal, your thoughts on this first. You in fact wrote a column saying that you believe that it was a very successful visit and that India can balance its interests with both China and Japan. You don't think that what Mr. Modi said about China indirectly is something that we should worry about?
Well, actually, China has said much worse things about us, and they have been saying this even before their high-level visits. So I don't think that too much attention should be paid to this. Prime Minister Modi made some general statements, but if you look at the totality of his statement, he talks about India and Japan and China cooperating, and that it's necessary to build up an Asian century if these three countries cooperate. He separately, when he addressed, I think, one of the colleges there, he was very careful in what he said and spoke positively about our relations with China, our intention to build a very productive relationship with China. But in general terms, yes, he spoke about expansionism and things like that without naming China. And if China wants to believe that Prime Minister was specifically targeting China, it's up to them. But I don't think that we should worry too much about Chinese sensitivities.
But who else would he be talking about in Japan?
Because these things are said. But these things are said, and the Chinese say all sorts of things about India, far more serious things in questioning our sovereignty and making huge claims on our territory, distributing all sorts of maps which show Arunachal Pradesh as part of India. But they don't desist from this, and they think that they can legitimately send messages to India at two levels. One, that in terms of the bilateral disputes on the border, there will be no give by China. On the other hand, they want India to accept that this being the case, there should be no inhibition or hesitation on the part of India to build a strong economic relationship with China.
Okay.
So if they can play this game with us, we can also subtly play a similar game and say that we will build up a strong relationship with Japan, built on some understanding that China's rise poses a problem to both our countries, but that doesn't deter us from forging a very strong relationship with China.
So interesting you say that we can play this game
especially
as well.
On the
can
economic
we,
side.
Mr. K.C. Singh, can we play that game as well? Because there are many who also feel, and I quote some editorials to you, for instance, today. One editorial today said that it was a tactless remark that reflected short-sighted thinking and poor diplomacy. Do you see it that way, or do you think it's a game that needs to be played as well?
Firstly, it's not a game changer in the sense Abe came to India when UPA was there. President Bush was the president of US. He was this Obama's Asian pivot, etc. has come later. So India has been reaching out to Japan and Japan to India since about 2006. 2006-07 when I was additional secretary, the first meeting at the additional secretary level, what is called the Quad, which was Japan, India, Australia and US, took place then, and the Chinese were very unhappy because these are 4 democracies meeting and they realized what that meant. So this had been going on. But what has happened this time, what is different is the warmth of the hug and the sharpness of the tongue. You know, the two things are different. So the outreach was there. I think there are 2 reasons perhaps for that. One is that Mr. Modi extemporizes. It's not a written text. It's not vetted, thought through. It's as he speaks, and he speaks very forthrightly. And second is that he's speaking in Hindi. Now, after a very long time, Hindi is being used for diplomatic parlance, for diplomatic public messaging. In English, you'll have 10 different words in which you moderate it. So, Vistarvad can only be, it's been translated as expansionism.
Yeah.
Another word could have been used. There may be other words. Vajpayee used Hindi, but he used it lyrically and poetically. And he used allusion and simile.
So do you think he could have avoided that reference at all?
I would imagine not. Where I would differ with Mr. Sibal is, you do not say it in Japan. The Chinese have not gone to Pakistan and said it. The Chinese have had their ambassador say it. The Chinese have had a general say it. They've had some people say it. They've had the newspapers write about poking a finger in India's eye before a visit. But at a high-level summit, in a country where there are outstanding problems, unless it is deliberate, and Mr. Modi is testing them out, then we are going into an entirely new area. Let's see where it goes. I'm not against it. All I'm saying is if it is deliberately done, then we should expect the Chinese to respond. They may not respond, in which case it may be successful, because after all, the Chinese have been destabilizing a periphery since 1963 when the Pakistanis gave them the Sakshkan
Although the
Valley.
Chinese official reaction, Mihir, has been very muted in a sense. The official media's anger seems to be directed more towards Japan than it is towards India on this. But how do you see these comments then? That, you know, as Mr. Modi plays this balancing act, it's clear that he's made Japan a priority country with which to do business with and to do relations with, and I think that is seen as a major positive by many. How does that then balance out with China?
Well, I think that the crucial thing to know, that as Ambassador Singh said, is that it is just not the case that Narendra Modi acts in these issues with a great deal of forethought. He is he thinks about India's position in the world in general and takes stands that are, I think, I wouldn't say impulsive, but of the moment. So, for example, in a college, he was asked, should I, a Japanese student, should we be concerned about China? And he said, let us be concerned about each other. All right, and which could be seen as a very positive thing if you were, if you were concerned about the Chinese reaction. On the other hand, in another context in Japan, he makes a statement about Vistarwadi. So there is, it's not reading a grand strategy into it. I think maybe a mistake. I think this.
So you don't see it as a shift?
I do not see it as a shift. I do not see it as a strategic change in any major way.
Mr. Sibal, before I come to Mr. Veerappa Moily, who joins us tonight as well, would you see it as a signal of a shift, or as Mihir Sharma says, it's not something that is well thought out and pre-planned, maybe a little off the cuff?
No, I totally disagree. I totally disagree with this. When he had gone to Arunachal Pradesh during the election campaign, he had spoken about Chinese expansionism, and he was on the border with Tibet when he said that. Now that was a very direct statement, and there was no confusion about what he meant. And he's carried the same thought. And when asked a question on this subject, he stated his views. But look at the totality of his statements. You are picking up only this Vistarvad and Vikaswad business, but if you look at the preamble to that statement, it is very sensible, it is very well thought out, it is very measured, there is no problem with it. And later on, when he was asked the question again, there he in fact spoke about strengthening our strategic partnership with China. And he spoke about India, China and Japan working together as 3 Asian countries to build up prosperity in Asia. What's wrong with that? I don't think that these are off the cuff, ill thought out or ill considered statements. I think that these things needed to be said. But let me address one more point about he's saying it on Japanese soil, etc., etc. When Wang Yi came as the representative of the Chinese president to meet Prime Minister Modi, and it was a great favor, great honor done to the Chinese, that the first foreign envoy to be received by him was Chinese. And what did Mr. Wang Yi say? He said, this staple visa that we are giving you is a goodwill gesture by China to India, showing utter contempt for our feelings on the subject. So if the Chinese can take such liberties with us, why should we worry so much about an oblique reference that has been made to the Chinese expansionism, which actually is a reality, which India faces and of course Japan is facing too.
But I think maybe the question then would be whether this is really an equal battle in that sense that India and China have had
no,
for
it's
so
not.
it's not, and therefore
not.
can
It's
we
not.
afford
It
to
depends on how much importance you want
Yeah.
to give to stray remarks.
Well-
Which are part of much larger set of remarks that he made, where there was nothing objectionable. And
Well,
in fact, there were
I do
positive
want to
things
ask
said about
Mr.
China.
Moily though, that Mr. Moily, the Congress has of course been very quick to say that the Japan visit was hugely unsuccessful, it didn't work, there was a lot of sound and fury and so on. But is that a rather unfair remark to make? Because you could clearly see that even though, as Mr. Singh said, there has been an engagement with Japan that has been there now for some time, including with your government, Mr. Modi has taken it to a whole new level. He's been able to secure billions of dollars in investment. You can see a personal warmth in his equation with the Japanese leadership. And this is important. He's been able to do what the UPA leadership could not.
Yeah, last 10 years, our economic relationship with Japan has been increasing manifold. That way, the visit of Mr. Narendra Modi to Japan, to definitely champion the cause of investment. Maybe, I must say that, it is in continuity of our proper legacy. But at the same time, there are certain other things which I would like to say that, in fact, our relationship was not good between the China. But, his visit and some of the reflections which he has made there, should not disturb our equilibrium with regard to their relationship with China. Another point after all, we cannot afford to be hostile to China, and the strategic partnership which we have been nurturing with China with last 10 or 15 years needs to be taken forward.